Hey, this is Jeremy with Spray Foam by IOK, and today we are going to go over the top 5 places that houses leak during the blower door test. The first place that houses leak during the blower door test is around outlets and light switches. So when people are putting in their fiberglass insulation in their wall, they're putting their bats in, and a lot of times people will just take their light switch, they'll see it, and they'll just cut around it and tape it to the front of the light switch, or sometimes they won't even tape it to it, they'll just put it like around the wall outlet. But what really needs to happen, what we would recommend, is if you take a piece of rigid iso board that's thick enough to fill the gap behind it, and you slide it behind that outlet or that light switch, and then you can take a can of foam and foam that right in. Now you have a full continuous insulation barrier that you can tie your fiberglass to, and you won't be sucking cold air in. And we do see a lot of air leakage in this one spot. It's probably one of the number one spots that we see a lot of air leakage. The second place that we see a lot of air leakage is around plumbing penetrations and electrical penetrations through the exterior walls. So when people will put in like a garden hose hookup or exterior lights, a lot of times we'll see that it's not caulked or sealed around these penetrations very well. So that's something to keep in mind as you're putting these in, is to make sure that it's caulked well or sealed well around these things. Another time that we'll see it is later on in the build process. Like the cable or internet provider will come and they'll just drill holes through the house, and they won't be caulked well. Sometimes they'll put like a little rubber seal, but they really need to be caulked really well to prevent air leakage and potential condensation and mold issues in these spots down the road. The third place that we see a lot of air leakage on our blower door test is light boxes and recessed lighting cans and ceiling fan boxes. So they'll be in the ceiling, and a lot of times people will just put blown in fiberglass insulation over it, but they'll kind of forget about the boxes. They kind of just think they're sealed well enough from the factory. So what we need to do in this situation, if we have a recessed lighting, is we can take some rigid iso board and kind of tape up a box out of that and put it over that lighting, and we can caulk it or seal it, tape all the seams in the box that we built, and that'll provide a good air barrier seal. It'll prevent a lot of air leakage. When we have ceiling fans, those boxes, they really should be caulked, or you can take just a can of foam and seal in over the ceiling fan boxes or the light boxes if you're going to hang a chandelier or something like that. But we do see a lot of air that leaks through them as well. The fourth place we see a lot of air leakage is rim joists in houses. And this is something that we even get into with retrofits. We can come in and spray foam a rim joist on a house, and it can save people a lot of energy down the road. And we can look at it with our infrared cameras and see that they do leak a lot of air and a lot of cold air through there. You can take it, you can do this yourself. You can use a froth pack and seal it on your own house if you're building it, if you're kind of DIY. Something to keep in mind with the froth packs is over the last 2 to 3 years, the prices have jumped from around $400 to, I just checked today, they're over $1,000 a kit. At $1,000 a kit, you're getting really close to calling a professional contractor to come in and do it. So definitely weigh in your options on that. It actually might be cheaper to have someone quoted and come in and do it if you go with a reputable foam contractor. The fifth place that we see air leakage on the blower door test is along the bottom of walls. So people will frame up their walls, they'll tip them up on the floor, but they won't caulk along that bottom of the framing. And that really needs to be done before the drywall's in, ideally. You can do it after the drywall's in, before the trim. But that's another common spot that people forget about when they're building their house. And we see a lot of air leakage, particularly on slab foundations. It's normally not as bad if you have a full foundation, but if you're tipping it up on a slab, we see a lot of air leakage there. On top of that, there's the standard places. Make sure your windows are installed well. Make sure your bathroom vents and your dryer vents are installed to factory specs. Make sure your chimneys are all installed to how they're intended to be designed and installed. But if you do all of those things, keep an eye on them. Those are the top 5 common areas people miss. Blower door test isn't that bad. You can normally pass them, but just make sure you're taking care in these areas that we mentioned.